Hello. So, this video is one that I have been meaning to make and thinking of making for a while now, and gives me nerves every time I think about it. But I think that means that I have to do it. The topics that nobody talks about are the ones that are important to break the stigma, right? So let's get into it. Some of you have seen in my posts before, but this is my first time talking about it on a video. So I've had a habit since I was a kid of pulling out my eyebrows and eyelashes during times of stress. And I'm not going to talk all about that in the video. So if you think that's gross, don't disconnect just yet. But I'm going to explain what I'm going to do. I'm trying a new method to help me break that habit. And this method can be used for any kind of habit. So the context that I learned about it was a weight loss context. And hey, Trent, how's it going? Thanks for joining. So my point in making this video, so first of all, I want to help to break that stigma a little bit, but I also want to give you a tool. And if you want to take this challenge with me and try this tool together, then this is your invitation. And again, it could be for emotional eating. There's all kinds of habits you could use this for. So let me tell you a little bit more about what I'm talking about. So first of all, the hair pulling thing, whenever I have mentioned this to anyone, they have a lot of questions about like, well, doesn't it hurt? And well, what does it feel like? And what makes you want to do that? And the best way that I can describe it is actually there is a release of tension afterwards. Like a really strong, positive feeling. And so I think, I've heard people say the same thing about, for example, cutting themselves, that like, but obviously there's some feeling associated and some positive reaction. Otherwise, people wouldn't do things like this. But for me, it just feels like the tension is building and building, and then there's a release. So I want to find ways to sit with that tension and diffuse it without engaging in behaviors that are really a form of self-harm. And the way that what I'm going to try is this thing called the urge jar. So before I get into that, I just want to say that like it's been the reason that I'm focusing on this now is I have a surgery coming up, which is causing me quite a bit of anxiety. And I'm feeling like right now is a time when I would be more vulnerable to falling back into this habit. And so I want to have an alternative positive solution that I'm working on. This is a habit I've had since I was a little kid and helped me cope with a lot of things when I was younger. But and it's kind of like it comes and goes in my life. But the worst that it ever has been is I guess about 15 years ago now, when I was in a string of relationships where I really wasn't valuing myself, and I wasn't able to speak my feelings or my opinions, and it came out in a dysfunctional way. Our feelings always come out one way or another, right? So I'll tell you all about this urge jar and how it's going to work, but the purpose is the kind of deeper purpose. It's not just about putting marbles in a jar. The deeper purpose is getting comfortable with uncomfortable emotions, letting ourselves feel our feelings, and increasing our capacity to be with pain and fear and these emotions that, as a little kid, we didn't have, as kids, we didn't have the tools to handle them. But now we're adults and we can learn a better way. We can learn a mature way of handling these emotions, and we can learn that we can handle them, right? That they're not going to destroy us. As a kid, when you are expected to just deal with feelings that are way too big and you don't have help and guidance from adults in dealing with them, it does feel like everything's falling apart and your world is ending. And then when we experience those same emotions as adults, we can feel the same way, and it just takes us right back to that feeling. But so through techniques that help us to be with our feelings, we can learn to trust ourselves through some really pretty turbulent times and negative emotions. So let's get into the urge jar and how it works and what it's all about. So this is going to be used whenever you have an urge to engage in this negative habit that you're trying to break. So again, it could be emotional eating. There are a lot of things that it could be. Hair pulling. I suppose you could use it for something like cutting too. There, like grinding my teeth is another one that I'm trying to break. So there's a lot of kind of unconscious habits that this could be applied to. And the way that it works is you have a jar and you have marbles. And I'm going to go through all the kind of specifications, but really what it comes down to, the basic description is you put a marble in the jar every time you successfully sit with an urge for 10 minutes without engaging in the behavior. I have to say this concept comes from Brooke Castillo, and she has a podcast called The Life Coach School that I highly recommend if you haven't checked it out. So thank you to Brooke for coming up with this. And I'm super excited to try it because of how clearly she describes it and how effective it is and why. So there's a whole episode about this if you want to know more. And I believe it's called the urge jar. It should be pretty easy to find. But I have two jars. I have one for the office and one for home. And then you get 100 marbles. And so I guess I'm just going to divide them probably in half. And we'll see which jar fills up faster. But then the idea is you choose a reward. So you'll choose something for when you're when you get to your 100 marbles, and I'll explain what happens if you mess up. That's a common question. But choose a reward that's, if you're working on losing weight or ending emotional eating, you would just want to make sure it's a non-food reward. So for me, it's probably going to be a piece of jewelry or maybe some like luxury skincare thing. Those are what I like to splurge on. But choose something, maybe you can book a trip or, I don't know, book yourself a massage, but choose a reward that's going to represent coming to the end of the 100 marbles. And then what you're going to do is every time you have the urge to engage in this behavior, the habit you're trying to break, don't just put the marble in the jar right away. You need to sit with the urge for 10 minutes. And instead of resisting or distracting, just be with it and allow it and notice the feeling. And it's just that mental attitude of saying it's okay. I allow this to be here. I'm not, distracting or pushing it away. I'm not judging myself. It just is, and it's with me. And I think I'm going to probably set a timer because who wants to watch a clock for 10 minutes, right? But so when you get that urge, maybe set a timer. 10 minutes later, once you have sat with the urge for 10 minutes, then you put one marble in the jar. And slowly your jar will fill up. Now, what happens if you mess up and you do the behavior that you're trying to avoid? You don't have to start over. You don't have to be perfect. You can just keep going. Okay, so obviously if you honor the urge by engaging in the habit that you're trying to break, then you're not going to put a marble in the jar. But you just basically do nothing. Then the next time you have the urge, you just continue to practice allowing for 10 minutes and put in a marble. Now I'm really excited to try this because according to Brooke, the seeing the jar start to fill up is very gratifying to our brains on a sort of primal level. It's visual, it's tactile, and like this sense of accumulation, I think is how she describes it. So it's kind of like the way she kept describing it was that it's weird how well this works, but it does. So I believe her and I'm excited to experience it. Yeah, and if you're going to be trying this with me, leave me a comment or send me a message and let me know what you're applying it to. And then we can keep in touch and see how quickly our jars are filling up. Yeah, I'm excited to have access to this new tool in a journey that I've been on for a while. Let's try it and see how it goes. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about this. And looking forward to having our little accountability group for the urge jar and seeing how long it takes all of us and what your reward's going to be. And not only seeing what habits we break, but what emotional capacity we build through this. Much love to you. Talk to you soon.